Well, good evening, everyone. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. I'm Beth Reinhardt. I'm the President and CEO of the Bristol Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of our board and our members, we welcome you. Appreciate that you all have taken the time and the interest to come out tonight and listen to the candidates who are vying for office to lead our city and our school system. So it's really important that we have folks here, and it's important who serves in these leadership positions for sure. We're going to begin this evening with our city council candidates. I say candidates. We have one candidate up here with us tonight. And we know how important, as I said, these leaders are. And I think in times such as the last week that we've had here in our region shows even more so why leadership is really important. If you look at all the work that's being done across the region and in the states as well, we've seen some amazing leadership demonstrated across our communities. Our leaders, as you know, were chosen by you, our electorate, and they discharge their legal and their constitutional authority, and they guide our city and our school systems during their 4-year term of office. Voting is a privilege that should not be taken lightly. This forum is designed to inform you, the voters, of the candidates' thoughts on specific questions they are asked tonight, and it can be used as just one tool of, I hope you have many, to help you make a decision when you go to the polls and cast your ballot. So before we get started, I also want to thank the City of Bristol. I know we have our city manager and assistant city manager here with us tonight. See Councilman Pollard, thank you for being here. And have I missed anyone? I don't think. But thank you all for being here, and thank you for the use of this great facility for tonight. If you would just let me thank our 2024 Chamber Government Relations sponsors, I would appreciate just a second to do that as they help us support events like this so that we can bring these folks to you. Our sponsors are Appalachian Power, Ballad Health, Brightspeed, Bristol Motor Speedway, Eastman Chemical, Eastman Credit Union, Hard Rock Bristol, the United Company, and Vulcan Materials. A few rules for the evening. The floor will not be open for questions or debate at any point during tonight's event. Any disruptive behavior, such as rallying, cheering, whistling, heckling, or talking during the program, which I know we won't have, or if you talk over candidates, that will not be allowed. No signs, hats, or noisemakers allowed. And we reserve the right to ask any attendee to leave. But I know we're not going to have any of those issues tonight. So I'm going to be moderating tonight's forum, and I want to go over with Ms. Nave here with us our guidelines for the candidates. The format will give each candidate 1 minute to introduce themselves, 1 minute to answer each question, and 2 minutes at the end for closing statements. Each candidate will answer every question, and typically what we do when we have multiple candidates is they alternate who goes first and who goes second in rotating order, just to make it fair for everyone who receives those questions. So without delay, I want to go ahead and introduce tonight's participant in the City Council Forum. We have Ms. Becky Nave, who's also currently serving as mayor of the City of Bristol. For reference, there are 2 candidates on the ballot, Anthony Farnham and Becky Nave, and there are 2 seats open in this election cycle. Lewis Garrett with our chamber is going to be assisting with the timing, and it almost seems a little silly to be timing, in quite honesty, but we'll do it just so that we can kind of keep track of how we don't have to really keep it to a specific time, being that we only have one person here to answer. So with that, Lewis, you want to show the yellow card? That's when we have about 20 seconds left. And the red card is when your time is up. And if we have to ding you with the bell, that means we've run over the time. But again, it seems a little silly, in all honesty, in that we don't have to share the time tonight. So first of all, Becky, thank you for being here with us. I really appreciate it. We did extend invitations to Mr. Farnham as well, and did not receive any acceptance to his willingness to participate tonight. So we hope that you all get a chance to meet all the candidates, even if they've served for 50 years. We want you to hear from our folks who are vying to lead the city, because I think it's really important that we know what they stand for, what their agenda is, if it's a particular issue or whether it's just to serve. So that's vitally important. So we hope that you all get a chance to know everyone that's on the ballot this year. So we're going to start with an opening statement. Ms. Nave, do you want to begin?
Sure. Thank you, Beth, and thank you to you and your staff and the Bristol Chamber of Commerce for hosting this candidate forum. I do agree that I think it's really important to have our voices out here and to know what we stand for, so thank you. I don't want that to cut into my minute. I'll hurry up. So hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. I'm Becky Nave, and I am excited to be on the ballot this time for the Bristol, Virginia City Council. Last time I was appointed to this seat, so I've never went through a full election time. So this is a new thing for me, and being involved in a forum is new for me. So thank you for your patience. But I was born and raised here in Bristol, Virginia. Went to Stonewall Jackson and then Virginia Middle School. It used to be Virginia Junior High School at the time, and then Virginia High. I went to community college, and then I went to King University. So I've been in Bristol my whole life, and I really care about what's happening in our city. And so that's what sparked me to want to be on council and have a voice. I also raised my children here. They all went through the city school system, and my oldest son is a physician, and my middle daughter was a teacher, and she switched careers, and then my youngest one is also here in the city. So we are happy to be here.
Thank you very much. And I want to reiterate our gratitude for you being here tonight. Even though you're serving in office currently, again, it's important that we hear from you, so thank you for that. I'm just going to run through some of these questions, and you take your time again in answering those. I think folks here have given of their evening to be here, so we'll open the floor to you. I'm going to start with one that's probably the easiest of these, maybe. Why do you want to serve on the Bristol, Virginia City Council, and what makes you a good choice for serving?
I want to serve on the Bristol City Council because being born and raised here, I want us to continue to build a great place for our children and grandchildren to live. I have the best interest of this city at heart. Growing up here, I credit a lot of my success to this city. It was wonderful to go through our school system and the experiences that I had. But I have a deep care for our city, and it's easy to sit back and make your comments, and they should do this and they should do that. So I thought I would become they and take a seat and really try to make a difference in our city.
Oh, thank you. Kind of along those same lines, if you could be specific about this, what is your vision for Bristol, and what do you have as your plan, or have you done to help advance that vision?
So there's a couple of things. One that's been a top priority from the beginning of getting on here has been our economic development and how we can continue to grow that through small businesses and through larger companies. And so economic development, we've got to have it. We've got to continue to grow it in our city in order to for our city to succeed. And I feel like since I've been on council, we've had some exciting times. Not all due to me being on here, but for what was set before me and then to build on that. But it's really exciting this year that we're opening a Hard Rock, which is a key to, is one of the biggest economic developments we've ever had. And so whether you're in favor of a casino or not, having that economic development also is a part of a huge, they're a huge employer for our city, so also having the job creation from that is huge. It also helps with our small businesses. And then a second part of that, the landfill still remains a top priority. It's not something we love at all, but it's something that we are responsible for and will make a difference with.
Thank you. I know, it seems kind of silly, doesn't it?
Like he's holding up the red card. Okay, yeah.
We won't yellow card you anymore. We'll just give you a flashing red so you can finish your comments on that. Okay. What have the residents of the Bristol community told you is the highest priority or need they expect you to be addressing if you're elected?
I hear over and over again about public safety and making sure that we have enough police officers out here, we have enough firemen, but really looking into our public safety. With one of the issues that's been at the top of the list has been the the homeless community and what we can do to help with that. And so that's been a priority. We've had a number of meetings as a result of that. We've had a number of meetings with the downtown, with downtown businesses, with also a lot of our property owners and residents from around the area wanting to know how we can help with the homeless issue. And so that also then results in us, we've added 4 new police officers in this year's budget, and I was a huge advocate for pushing for that, and we hope to continue doing that. I know we still have a great need for more officers, more firemen, and we'll continue to push for that.
Okay, thank you. So as it relates to business sustainability, in light of expanding businesses, how will you ensure that our city maintains a favorable business climate, attracts more investment, and remains financially stable?
You know, that is something that small business I have a huge heart for. In my earlier career, previous to my tourism career that I'm in now, that was one of the things I did. I worked with small businesses to help them get started, either through a business loan or also taught many years of business basics training. So it's important that we hear from our small businesses are the heartbeat of our community, and we need to make sure that we are listening to them to help them with their needs and help them to be successful. And so I think being involved, we are actively, visiting our businesses, talking to them, hearing things that we can do to help them, putting ordinances in place that maybe will help protect them in some ways. But I feel like the small business community is the heart of our city, and we have to continue to do everything we can to keep them in business.
Thank you. So with the recent catastrophic impact to many of our neighboring communities, do you anticipate any new challenges for Bristol as a result of the closures of I-26 and I-40 as one example of that catastrophic event?
I really think that it's going to draw more people towards our city, and this way, as you all know, I work for Virginia Tourism, so this past week, and actually right before I came running in here today, we were on phone calls to help with visitors and people calling, wanting to know where to go, how they get to places, what's open. And so I think that if anything, we're going to see more people coming to our area, either to stay overnight for a while, or and visit our businesses, or to maybe stay here. So I really think it's going to send a lot more people our way.
Thank you. So as a local government, how would you properly structure an incentive program that both protects the taxpayers and fosters growth?
You know, we have talked a lot about this. As you all know, the city of Bristol, Virginia, we have our financial struggles, and we continue to do so. So we have to be careful on the incentives that we have that are something we can offer to draw the businesses in, but also won't fall on the debt from that, wouldn't fall on the taxpayers. So I think that the recent plan that our IDA has presented, we have been following that, and from that we have a couple of businesses that since then have got incentives to come to Bristol. And again, we're just being very cautious and trying to be very financially alert about what we're offering to businesses. And some of the things we've done with like the hotels that are coming at Exit 7, we did a no net loss agreement with them. And, that's not coming directly off of anything that we're doing, or that's not cash out of our account right now. But in the long term, seeing that return on our investment, we're going to find that we are going to get a return on that investment once they are built.
Great, thank you. Will you please share what you see as one of Bristol's greatest opportunities that we have to grow and prosper that we're not currently pursuing?
That we're not currently pursuing. I I think that there's still a lot of opportunity to bring a lot more business and industry here. I do think we are currently pursuing that. However, we have limited staff in our city who I have to give a lot of credit to because they work their tails off every single day. And they do the jobs that in some cities have 4 or 5 people doing that job. So, such as our economic development specialist, Mac Chapman, he works really hard, but there's just one of him. So I would love to see us build out on that in that department, have an economic development staff where we can actively pursue at these either trade shows or other opportunities that we have to be involved in order to draw more of the businesses in here and let them know that we have buildings, we have land, we have places that you can build and start your business or bring your big industry to.
Thank you very much. What do you see as a major driving force in the increasing homeless or unhoused population we're seeing in Bristol? And what would you recommend for how we're addressing that?
Well, I think that it's not just in Bristol. It's not even I won't even say statewide. It's a nationwide problem. You have seen homelessness increase across the nation. And so I think, every time we have a job fair for a company or there's job openings, continuing to push that we do have jobs opened. But then we run into other issues because even if we're saying, hey, we have jobs open, not everyone that's homeless is looking for a job, I have found, and talking to them. And so really trying to address, is it mental illness or other problems that's going on there. So I would like to see us continue to have those conversations, and we've had some of these at the federal level on, is there funding that could help with some of the issues that we're having with the mental illness.
Very good, thank you. So what we call market-appropriate affordable housing, we know that that's a concern for both employees and for the overall community. What strategies would you pursue to increase the availability of the market-appropriate housing in Bristol, ensuring that our workforce can live here locally?
So that has been a hot subject, actually, or I want to say a top subject that we have talked a lot about through council as well as with residents. We have a lot of residents that will say, I had to move, or I found a place on the Tennessee side because I couldn't find a place that I liked, a place I wanted to live in on the Bristol, Virginia side. So I think having the opportunity to have more affordable housing, workforce housing, whatever you want to call it, and is a huge need. And so we've been having these conversations. That's also, when I had these conversations with the Mount Rogers Planning District Commission about their housing study, it's, again, one of those issues. It's not just Bristol, it's across our region. And so there's been a lot of people looking for housing that's workforce housing, not all government-assisted housing, but workforce housing, and they haven't been able to find it. So we do know that that's a need. We also have talked greatly with a lot of developers, several developers who are interested in investing in our community, who want to build housing here. So I'm hoping that that will work out as well.
Thank you. Got a couple others here. They're actually somewhat related to some of the others. So I think what I'm going to do, being that you've been very gracious sitting up there in the hot seat all by yourself, and given of your time tonight, and I know that we'll have a reset after we finish this portion for the school board candidates. And so I'm sure if Ms. Nave has the time, she would speak to you all off the side too, and really any time to answer any questions. But I do want to give you a couple of minutes for closing comments and to share anything that is important to you that maybe we haven't touched on, but just also to give you the floor.
All right, thank you, Beth. I'll just say one of the things that I kept hearing over and over as well was about the communication from the city, whether it pertained to the landfill or whether it was just about general information. And so I was really happy after I got on council that we were able to add a public information officer along with Tennille's duties that she serves as the clerk of the council. And so she has done a great job at the communication. I feel like that's been very helpful through all the social media channels and just getting the word out there about things going on in the city and trying to keep our residents up to date. But aside from that, I'll just say that it has been a really humbling experience to serve on this council as being a council member as well as a mayor. When I was growing up as a little girl in the city, I never dreamed in my wildest dreams I'd be sitting in this seat, and my classmates would probably agree with me as well. But I will tell you, I love this city. I want what's best for this city. I want my children to stay here and raise their children here. My grandchildren are here, starting in schools all around in the city. And I want to build Bristol to be a place that all of my children and grandchildren and your children and grandchildren will say one day, continue to say, this is a great place to live, because I truly believe we live in one of the best places there is to live.
Thank you, and can I retract that those were final comments? I do have one other quick question, if it's all right
Sure.
to share. So, in your opinion, and having served on council, can you think of a council vote that was taken maybe over the past year or in your recent history that you felt like was not the best decision, and why was that?
Let's see. I think when I first started on council, one of the first votes that was taken was to close our jail here in the city. And while I know there was a lot of background done on that before I came on council, that was a tough one. It was a tough one to come in to, honestly, it was like one of my first meetings. We had to vote on that. So, again, listening to a lot of the deputies that I talked to that really wanted to keep the jail, one of my first votes on council was a no, not to close it, and it was not a favorable decision. But that was a tough one, just because I hadn't been in on all the conversations leading into that. I was trying to think of anything as of late. The latest one, I guess, that got a lot of notice was the ordinance that we placed to ban camping on city property. And again, it was one of those that was a little bit controversial. And I think for people just to understand, again, we were listening to our businesses and our residents of this city who really want to stop that. And so I voted to move forward with that ordinance, and I was the tiebreaker vote. And it's not because we, we're just trying to, some people took that in a bad way. We are doing it for the best interest of our city, and also to work with the resources we have to help the homeless community get the help that they need, and also get jobs if they need a job or if they need assistance in whether it's they need drug abuse help, or if it's mental health. We want to help them find those resources. So I think those are the two that came top of mind that's been difficult. Those hard decisions you had to make and really look at it and say, what's the best decision for this city that I need to make?
Thank you very much. I think we need to give Mrs. Nave a round of applause.
Yes. Thank you.
I will say that, running for and serving in elective office is very challenging. People put themselves personally out there. It's a sacrifice that you make to not only run, but to serve. You put yourself and your family and sometimes your job out there in the front. So we are very grateful and appreciative of folks who step up to run for office and to serve, so thank you for that. I do also want to remind folks that early voting actually began September 20th. It runs through November 2nd here in the Office of Elections and Voter Registration. And we just hope that you will cast your vote, whether it's in early voting or show up on the day of the polls on November 5th, because every single vote does count. So we appreciate you, Mrs. Ney, for being here, and we will move on to the school board candidate forum and appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you very much.
We'll take a brief reset and let the school board candidates come up. As our candidates are getting seated for our school board election, a little bit about the Bristol Chamber. We host these every election cycle, and the reason we do that, we do not endorse or financially support any candidates, but we do feel like it is critically important that our voters and our businesses have the information they need to be able to make good decisions in terms of voting for leadership. So it's our job to put them out in front of you and provide opportunities for you to hear from them. So we are glad that you all are here. So gentlemen, we'll go ahead and get started. I won't run over same folks here, so the general guidelines, but same as with our council forum, we wanted to give you all kind of the format for tonight, which is 1 minute to introduce yourselves, 1 minute to answer each question, and then 2 minutes at the end for your closing comments. Each candidate will answer every question, but will alternate who goes first. We will start in the same order that you are seated, which correlates with how you are listed on the ballot. Any candidate may ask me at any time to repeat the question, and I will gladly do so. Questions will be randomly drawn each time, and those have not been shared with any candidates or frankly with anyone prior to this evening's forum. So without delay, we'll go ahead and introduce tonight's participants, and those are folks running for school board. So they are as follow: Mr. William Hartley, Mr. Frank Goodpasture III, and Mr. Joshua Slagle. And for reference, there are 2 open seats in this election cycle. And again, Lewis will be assisting with the cards. When you begin, he will start the timer. When you see the yellow card that he will hold up, you have 20 seconds remaining. When he holds up the red card, that means your time is up, and you may finish and wrap up your comment at that moment. And then if you continue to move forward, you will hear a bell, which means we will have to move to the next candidate for their answers. So we appreciate that and the fairness of everyone having ample time to answer each question. So we ready to start, Mr. Lewis? All right. So we will begin with Mr. Hartley. Again, these are your opening statements, 1 minute each. So Mr. Hartley.
Thank you, Beth, and I appreciate the Chamber giving this opportunity to hear from all the candidates. I'm Bill Hartley. I'm running for school board. I'm a lifelong resident of Bristol. In fact, I still live in the same house I grew up in. Went through the school system, started at Highland View, went to Douglas, then Virginia Junior High at the time, and Virginia High School. After I graduated from there, I went on and got degrees in history and political science, and moved back to Bristol. Once I did, I became active in the community in a variety of ways, and over the past 20-some years have worked in nonprofit or higher education things. And so, you know, I hope to be able, as we talk about this, to use those experiences to help better our education system and create opportunities for our younger generation. I have 2 children in the school system, so I have very vested interest in what happens with their education. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goodpasture.
I'm Frank Goodpasture III. I've lived in Bristol all my life, born here. Went to the Bristol, Virginia schools. After a tour in the Republic of Vietnam as an airborne sensor specialist in 1st Aviation Brigade, I went on and took a BA in history at the University of Virginia. I'm fairly well traveled with trips to Western Europe, North Africa. I've done bicycle trips in Asia and Spain and traveled in Australia. My late wife and I, Jerry, raised 3 boys and 2 girls, all of whom went to Bristol, Virginia schools, and they achieved academic distinction and were good athletes. She and I have served the greater community in supporting youth sports, economic development, and the church. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Slagle.
My name's Josh Slagle. I will be 37 years old tomorrow. Like the rest of these guys, I went to a Virginia high school. I think I'm the only one who went to a Virginia middle school. Right after high school, I went straight into work in the public service. When I was 21 years old, I went to work with the Bristol, Virginia Police Department. Stayed there for 13 years and moved over to the Community Development Department, which is where I have been since 2021. I have been married to my wife, Nikki, going on 18 years. Together we have 3 kids, 17, 16, and 11, soon to be, anyways, that are all 3 enrolled in the local school system. So I have a vested interest in what's going on. I have skin in the game as to the outcome of policies that are passed by the school board, and hopefully I can earn your vote here tonight.
Thank you all. So now we'll move to the random questions that are truly random as we pull out here. And Mr. Goodpasture, you will answer first. And reminder, please ask me if you'd like me to repeat any question at any time. The question is, what is a school board member's role and responsibility, and how does that role differ from the role of the superintendent or administration?
Good question. The only hire that a school board makes is the superintendent. And the responsibilities thereafter are to consult with him and be aware of any of the moves that he wants to make, typically, or she, because I've had female superintendents too, but you consult, advise, and consent with the superintendent and vote on the budget, you vote on policy, and you try to keep aware of what's going on in education to try to do the best for the students here in town.
Okay, thank you. Next up, Mr. Slagle.
I believe the role of a school board member is essentially, I believe Mr. Goodpasture nailed it, is you make one hire, which is the superintendent. The school board develops policy and sets the direction for the school systems to follow throughout the year and throughout the time that they're elected. Make budgetary decisions, recommendations, and eventually vote for and pass a budget.
Thank you. And Mr. Hartley.
Not a whole lot to add. I think they both described the job description fairly well. I mean, you have one hire, superintendent, much like city council has city manager. Any board, nonprofit board that I've been on, you hire the executive director. Your goal is to develop and pass policies and a budget. But I also think one of the key things is where you're elected from the community at large, that you can serve as that conduit back to the community, and you can also be a good advocate with other elected officials and stakeholders in the community as well.
Thank you. And I failed to note, we do have our superintendent, Dr. David Scott, with us this evening, so thank you for being here. All right, question number 2, and Mr. Slagle will go first. What can be done to continually improve student achievement and ensure that graduating students are college and/or work ready?
I believe from a school board level, that is passing and developing policy that I guess provides the best buffer in between, I guess, the board and the school system. There's not a whole lot that we can take, that we can vote on, rather, that has to do with curriculum or things like that. Unfortunately, a lot of that is state standardized, I believe. But I think the most important part is creating an environment and an atmosphere that is conducive to allow each student to achieve at the highest level that they're able to achieve.
Thank you. Mr. Hartley?
Yeah, I would agree with that, it actually starts in elementary school, that you want to create that environment of learning. You want to make sure that your elementary students are learning at grade level, particularly by the 3rd grade, that they're reading, because that is a crucial time, because it's when you quit learning to read and read to learn, and it has a lot of implications further on down. But I think, as you get into middle school, you want to have career exploration so that people understand jobs that are available locally, so they can think about what their career path might be, and then to support them as they get into high school, both those that want to go on and get higher education or a 2-year degree or a certificate, or those that maybe just want to go into the workforce, that you provide the supports that are necessary for them to further their career aspirations.
Thank you. And last on this question, Mr. Goodpasture.
Would you repeat the question?
Oh, of course. What can be done to continually improve student achievement and ensure that graduating students are college and/or work ready?
Well, for the last 2 years or 4 years of my position on the school board, we've been dealing with COVID and the new school. Now it's all about academics. And the best thing we can do is to hire the best teachers we can and expect high achievers to advance and do the best that they can, and offer academic courses that will give students the opportunity to go on to higher education or go out in the job and seek a job. It's best, I think, from a school level to make sure that our students do math well and are able to read, especially by the 3rd grade. So they have to be instructed and educated to the point that they can be good citizens and get engaged in society.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to question number 3, and Mr. Hartley, you will answer this one first. So the question is, do you agree or disagree with the Commonwealth's new policy around limiting student cell phone access while at school, and why?
So I don't know all the details of the policy. I know that what's been in the paper is basically from bell to bell, not having cell phone. And to a point, I agree with that, you're in school to learn. You need to focus on the instruction, focus on your teacher, that cell phones can be a distraction. But as a parent, I think it's very important that the students have access to those cell phones in case of an emergency. We've seen that with potential emergencies here, but definitely in other states where things happen. So I know the school board spent a lot of time last spring working on a policy. I don't know how compliant that is with the governor's new draft, but I know a lot of time and effort was put into that and thought through. Hopefully it is still compliant, because I think their policy was very fair and balanced, and they tried to look at both of those aspects.
Thank you. Mr. Goodpasture.
Personally, I don't think cell phones have any place in the classroom. They don't help, they hamper instruction, and they also are an aid for bullying. If a student is being bullied by someone in the high school, it can be in English class, and that bully can be in phys ed, and still making contact with a cell phone. I know the argument for trying to take care of emergency situations, but we have intercoms throughout the school system. The school system has every parent's cell phone. We can get the messages out, and we don't have to have the cell phone in the classroom.
Thank you. Last on this question, Mr. Slagle.
I do agree with the governor's executive order to limit or restrict cell phone use in schools. I think they cause a very obvious distraction. They take time away from learning. They put a student's mind elsewhere when it should be focused on things that are going on in the classroom. This policy is actually what, I guess, caught my attention when I was making a decision to run for school board. I'm actually happy with this school system's policy that they created to limit the use of cell phones or restrict them. I did have issues with certain aspects of that policy that calls for the, I guess, the taking of those devices when they're being used in the school. I believe that cell phones, in fact, are personal property, and I believe personal property and seizure of it without the proper due process of law is illegal. And that's something that I would change if I was, or try to change rather, if I was given the opportunity. As far as the executive order itself, yeah, I believe something does need to exist, and that the use of them should be limited.
Thank you. All right, go on to question 4. And Mr. Goodpasture, you will answer this one first. What are your thoughts on the current and/or the proposed budget for our school system?
The current budget for this school system,
Mm-hmm.
we have to make do with it. The budget's huge. The school system is one of the biggest employers in town, and we just have to do with what we can get, because we don't have taxing authority. And the best we can do is advocate with city council to get more if that's what we need to do, or advocate at Richmond level to get more. But I personally, I think that we've got enough to get the job done.
Thank you. Mr. Slagle.
Like Mr. Goodpasture said, obviously the school system doesn't have any authority to tax, so you are limited in your, I guess, total expense, if that's what you want to put it, by what is allocated to the school system by the city and by the state. There are some areas that I'd like to see the budget utilized a little differently. For example, you've got 6 maintenance workers that maintain all of the properties that Bristol, Virginia school systems maintain, or are responsible for maintaining, rather. I believe on average, the national average is you should have about 1 maintenance worker for every 50,000 square feet. You have places like Virginia High School, which just turned 71 years old. It's about 250,000 plus square feet. I would try to find places in the budget where we could hire additional maintenance staff that might be able to actually be more proactive instead of reactive in taking care of certain things, like construction problems that might arise out of a 110-year-old and a 71-year-old building.
Thank you. Mr. Hartley.
Yeah, the school system's budget has been pointed out. You don't have taxing authority. You have to rely on the state, locality, federal government. And my experience, having served on city council, making some of those hard decisions about how you allocate precious resources. And with the school system, if you look at the budget, the vast majority of it, I think about 3/4, is in personnel costs. And what we've seen, especially over COVID, and it's not just in Bristol, it's a nationwide trend, is that teachers, are leaving the profession because of pay and a lot of other things. But so, just you have to find a way to attract and retain the classroom teachers, as well as Mr. Slagle pointed out, the staff. That, you don't want to be reactive, you want to be proactive. But I think one of the things is making sure that you can attract and retain the best talent that you possibly can.
Thank you. We'll move on to question 5. And this is Mr. Slagle's first response. What issues do you believe our school district needs to address in its academic program and offerings, and what changes would you recommend?
Point averages for participation in athletics, and I would like to see, I guess, policy that essentially makes curriculums and or curriculums rather that we have to instruct more achievable for students.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hartley.
So one of the things, and I think the school system does a good job of preparing people to go on to college. Even at the community college level, they have the dual enrollment classes. They have a lot of things there that help students that are going on. But I think on the workforce side, and they do a great job with the programs they have, whether it be horticulture, the culinary, or the health sciences. They've just started the learning lab up at Emory and Henry, which is a partnership. But I think one thing that showing my age, I remember when I was in school was the building trades, and that is definitely something that is in demand in this region. And I don't know if that could be brought back to the school or maybe in a partnership with Washington County or even Bristol, Tennessee, but trying to find ways to get those kids into those because, when you look at the outlook, there's going to be a demand for carpenters, electricians, and plumbers, and those jobs pay great wages, and they're right here local.
Thank you.
One more time on the question, please.
Yes, sir. What issues do you believe our school district needs to address in its academic program and offerings, and what changes would you recommend?
We definitely need to have children reading in the 3rd grade. We need to have students proficient in math, and we need to get as many students as possible taking advanced subjects and academic programs. But Bill mentioned one that I think it struck me. Back at the junior high, we used to have mechanical drawing, and that is it's a wonderful course, and it tickles your brain, so to speak, and I think that it would be great if we could get that back in the school system.
Thank you all. Maybe I should ask if they also offered that in middle school. I appreciate your all's great collegial spirit tonight. All right, question number 6, Mr. Hartley, you will go first. What are the greatest concerns you have heard from parents regarding their children's education in our community, and what would your plan be for addressing that?
So I think as a parent and hearing from other parents, I think, in terms of academics, most people feel fairly satisfied. I think the concerns come around to safety, whether it be from a threat, outside threat or inside threat, or from bullying. That's a concern you hear a lot about at the high school and the middle school level particularly. And one of the things I think can be done, and I know the school system is working on this, is better communication with the parents. And, you know, they're rolling out different ways. For example, just last spring, you know, they had some issues, some events at the high school, and they realized that what they were doing wasn't working. They saw some gaps, and so they're working on that. But I think it's a thing you need to continuously look at, is making sure that you're communicating well with the parents to assuage their fears.
Thank you. Mr. Goodpasture. Yes, sir. What are the greatest concerns you have heard from parents regarding their children's education in our community, and what would your plan be for addressing that?
To be honest, I haven't heard any parents tell me what they wanted taught at the high school. But just reading what the concerns might be in the paper and nationally, certainly security is a big deal, and we're working on that all the time. Our superintendent he's laser focused on security. The academic side, that's pretty much on the side of the administrators and the teachers. But I know that in a lot of communities where you have, say, Middle Eastern people, they want more math. They want their children to go to engineering schools and medical schools and that kind of thing. So I think we need to kind of push that from the school board side, the academics.
Thank you. Mr. Slagle, the last answer this one.
I think the biggest concerns that I hear from parents are probably bullying and safety. Bullying is a major problem at the schools. I've heard one commentator refer to Virginia High School as Thunderdome. And if you've seen some of the videos that maybe my children share with me that their friends send around, I understand why they refer to it as Thunderdome. I know one particular issue I've had that I have, and of which I am a parent, is the new intermediate school has hallways that are about the length of a football field, with 2 school resource officers who are armed only with handguns, without the capability of properly utilizing those at a target that might be more than 300 feet away. So the safety of schools and bullying probably are the 2 biggest concerns that I routinely hear.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the next question. And Mr. Goodpasture, you answer this one first. In your opinion, what was a recent vote taken by the school board that you felt was maybe not the best decision?
Not the best, you say?
Correct.
I'm generally a contrarian in every situation, but I think that the votes that have been taken so far in my latest iteration of being a school board member, I don't have any complaints.
Thank you. Mr. Slagle.
I would say the cell phone policy, again, only with its respects to the seizure of legally owned and possessed private property of cellular devices.
Thank you. And Mr. Hartley.
I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I mean, I know the school board, having worked with them when I was on city council, having attended some of their meetings, I mean, they spend their time and deliberate and thoroughly vet things. So when they do reach something, I think, you know, there's a lot of back and forth, and they try to be fair and balanced. And it kind of shows I can't think of anything that's been majorly controversial.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to question number 8. And Mr. Slagle, you'll go first. Could you support a board decision you did not vote in favor of? Why or why not?
Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think I could. I mean, my own philosophy, I don't well, I guess I do believe there's no such thing as zero tolerance. And, I think all of us would like to say, hands down, we could support any decision that the board has made. But, there are some decisions that are very hot button and they're very close to people. So I can tell you I wouldn't be contrary about it. I might voice my opinion about it. I wouldn't let it disturb or disrupt any of the business that the school board is responsible for conducting. But overall, yes, I would absolutely support it, as I believe I would be bound to.
Thank you. Mr. Hartley.
So during my time on city council, I often was the lone vote against a lot of things. But, once you take those votes, you deliberate, you say your piece, you vote your conscience, you do what you think is for the best interest of the city, of the community, of the students, of the parents, of the teachers. And, you are only one of five. At the end of the day, the board as a whole is what moves forward. And so, you stand behind what they did. You may not agree with it, but as long as you had the opportunity to say your piece and to try to work and persuade your fellow members to your side, then you have done the best you can. And so you can rest easy at night.
Thank you. Mr. Goodpasture.
We have to remember we're in a democracy, and in order to pass something on a board, you have to be able to count to three at least. So if a motion is made and a vote is taken and I disagreed with it, I'm not going to throw darts at the people that voted in favor. And you stand with the board and go on. And back to a previous question, if there was anything that I would like to have seen done that I wanted to vote on and didn't get it done, was to call our schools Bristol Virginia High School and Bristol Middle School and Bristol Intermediate and Bristol Van Pelt. Use the name of our town and the name of our schools.
Thank you. So now we're moving on to question number 9. The basket's getting slim here. Mr. Hartley, you'll answer this one first. What creative solution do you suggest for recruiting and retaining a diverse educator pipeline for our schools?
That's a tricky question. I mean, I think, at the end, the bare thing is trying to get people interested. This region, in terms of racial and ethnic diversity, if you look at the census data, it's not necessarily one of the most diverse parts of the Commonwealth. So when you're looking locally, you have to draw from where you are. But I think, you can try to recruit outside the region. You can try to find people as they're coming through. I think one of the good things that the high school started, at least at the early education level, is already identifying students in high school that maybe want to go on to early childhood education and having a program there. So I think, just like anything, it's building a pipeline. It's trying to get a diversity of viewpoints and opinions, not necessarily in this. And part of that is...
I didn't understand your question.
That's
You can
I was going to
finish
say
your comment.
part of that is making sure that you compensate people fairly. That's where it's going.
Thank you. So would you like me to repeat the question?
Please.
Of course. What creative solution do you suggest for recruiting and retaining a diverse educator pipeline for our schools?
Finding good teachers is tough. Finding a math teacher is almost impossible. We have to take the best we can get. And the way I look at it, it has to be on a meritocracy, and we don't need to be playing to politics to choose our teachers. If the teacher's good and has a good track record, regardless of their ethnic background or whatever, you hire them. So I think it needs to all be done on merit.
Thank you. And Mr. Slagle?
I agree with Mr. Hartley and Mr. Goodpasture. I think you need to develop a pay scale that is comparable or I guess competes with other areas that are similar in size to our school district. You need to develop policy that makes it attractive for them to want to work for the Bristol Public School System. And you also have to do things that would help encourage the retention of those employees, so that, teaching doesn't become something that they used to like to do, and because of certain aspects of the job, be it administration, be it policy, be it, micromanagement, not saying that there is any, just throwing things out that, you're able to minimize those and you're more able to retain the staff that you have and attract new persons who are qualified to hold those positions.
Thank you. Question number 10. Mr. Goodpasture, you'll go first. Why do you want to serve on the Bristol, Virginia School Board? What makes you a good choice, but even more so, what makes you better suited to serve than your opponents?
I was first appointed to the school board back in the 90s. And then the selection of school board members became an elected position, and I won a seat on the school board and served as chairman. And during that time, we hired 2 superintendents. I'm finishing up 4 years in my latest iteration of being a school board member, and so I'm seasoned. I know what's going on and how to do it. I think that educating students all over the country is the duty and moral duty of every political subdivision. They need to educate the most valuable product that's in their town, which is the young people. And they need to get them to where they can read, write, become self-sustaining, and be engaged public citizens. I want to be a part of that.
Thank you. Mr. Slagle?
Well, to start, I have 3 children that are in the public school system. One my youngest, who will be there for a few more years at least. She's in the intermediate school. I have skin in the game. Policy that is passed by the school board is felt by me at home. It's felt by my children. We face it. Currently, there is no other member on the school board who have children that are in the school system, and not that it should be a requirement. It's obviously not, but it allows people with children to see some of the issues through a different lens that you can only see through if you are affected by the outcomes of some policies, be it for better or for worse.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hartley?
Could you repeat the question?
Of course. Why do you want to serve on the Bristol, Virginia School Board, and what makes you a good choice, or even more so, what makes you better suited to serve than your opponents?
So, much like Mr. Slagle, part of the reason that I want to serve is I have children in the school system, a senior in high school and a 8th grader, and I want to help create educational opportunities not only for them, for their friends, for my neighbors, for the city as a whole, because having served on city council, I can see the importance of having educational opportunities in terms of making this community a better place. If we want to bring industry into this community, one of the first things they're going to look at is your educational system. If people want to move to this community, one of the first things they're going to look at is the quality of your education system. So I think having that experience on city council and in my day job working around economic development, as well as having children kind of give me a different vantage point to look at potential policies.
Thank you. So we're closing on our last 2 questions. This question, Mr. Slagle, you'll go first. As a board member, where would you look to make budget cuts?
well, I'd look for areas of the school system that were already heavy with something. And unfortunately, I'm not sure in our school system that we have any areas that are heavy with anything. We have, having a hard enough time employing teachers, especially at a salary that is competitive. We have maintenance issues that arise with only a handful of workers to work on them. We have issues with or shortcomings rather, at just about every area of the budget. I'm not sure that there is somewhere that you could cut and still provide the level of service that is provided today.
Thank you. Mr. Hartley.
I would agree with Mr. Slagle on that assessment. The budget's pretty lean, and the school board has done a good job over the years dealing with the funds they have as the amount of money that's coming from the city. The city is basically just meeting the bare minimum for the state requirements, and it will probably be that way for a while. So it's very lean. Again, you have to have your instructional people in the classrooms. You have to compensate them well, but you also have to have the support staff. You have to have the custodians, the bus drivers, just this past year, they lost some of their federal funding and they lost aides. So, there's one place that has already been cut. And, one of the things that I think, having served on city council and seeing the problems of facility management, and that typically is something that you think, well, we can defer maintenance, but, that will come back many years later and create much larger problems.
Thank you. Mr. Goodpasture.
Currently we have great facilities, even with a school that was built in 1916. I helped redo that school. We spent $5 million and it's got everything it needs to be in the 21st century. We pay our teachers are on par with our neighbors, and we're running out of all the COVID money that was dumped on us back several years ago. Right now, I don't see any fat that needs to be cut. And so I think that we're running mean and lean. So I would leave it the way it is.
Thank you all. So last question of the evening, and Mr. Hartley, you'll go first. What changes should be made on the state level regarding public education?
So two things that I've always heard from educators, members of the school board, other people is not necessarily to eliminate, but to reduce the number of SOLs, those tests, while they do provide a measure of accountability to make sure people are where they're at. I can tell you, when my son took his first SOL in the 4th grade, he was almost to the point of being physically sick the night before. They put too much stress on a test that doesn't really have any long-term impact. I mean, they do serve a function, and I know some of our local legislators have mentioned that. The other thing is changing the composite index formula, because the way that is, we need, for rural areas and places like Virginia or Bristol that are cash-strapped, to change that formula to get more funding down in Southwest Virginia.
Thank you. Mr. Goodpasture.
I'm not all that knowledgeable about what the state school board does. It's an appointed position by the governor, and it changes every 4 years. I think they need to recognize the geographical diversity and economic diversity of the Commonwealth. Seems like every time I go down to Richmond, it's the focus is pretty much east of the Blue Ridge, and so I think if anything, we just need to have more recognition on the part of the state board that there are specific needs in the mountains and in our area that they need to address, with probably more money.
Thank you. Mr. Slagle.
State standardized testing is probably something that, I guess, the most important thing that I would like to see change. I was a victim of the same thing as Mr. Hartley's son. There were some classes that throughout my time in school, be it middle school or high school, that I would pass the class and fail the state required SOL, which would force me to come back at a later date, or maybe even during the summer or the next year, to take a test for a class that I had already passed, that I had for, however many months of school the school year lasts. I think they're frankly not entirely necessary. So something I would like to see change on the state level are SOLs.
Thank you all. So that concludes the question portion. We're going to move to your closing comments. You each get 2 minutes for that. And Mr. Goodpasture, you will have the floor first.
Well, as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm a Bristol native, and I believe that our children are the most important resource in our town. We need to take care of them by educating them and treating them fairly and having them advance to the best of their potential. Education and a good school system is part of economic development, so I hope that the City Council thinks about that, because as Mr. Hartley mentioned, when somebody's looking at locating a business, they're going to look at the school system. And I know the SOLs are a kind of a prickly part of the deal, but if we're not competing with the rest of the Commonwealth, we're at a disadvantage. So we need to take care of that part of it. And I don't know, maybe teach to the test, I don't know, but we need to make sure that our education system is on par with Richmond and Northern Virginia, and we're getting our students, to the best schools, and they're having the best outcomes, whether they go to four-year college or not. So, as I say, I really think it's the duty and the moral responsibility of a city to make sure that their school system is doing well, and the board needs to have that same spirit.
Thank you. Mr. Slagle.
Well, there's not a ton more that I could say that I haven't or one of us haven't already said, but whether you're here at night or watching at home, I'm no different than most of you. I'm a parent with 3 children, a lot of bills and not enough money in a terrible economy. I deal with the same things that you deal with, and one less thing I would like to deal with are maybe policies that are passed that affect my home or my home life, or the way that I live my home life by the school board is something that I would like to try to avoid, because those policies go home with me. And if I'm on the school board, that wouldn't change. They would still go home with me. The only difference would be a more keener insight to your own that is going into the school board than maybe what's already there. So I would appreciate your vote on November the 5th.
Thank you. And final words of the evening, Mr. Hartley.
Again, thank you to the Chamber. Thank you to fellow candidates up here. As we started out, just like everyone else, I'm a product of the school system. I think I have some my background serving as a local elected official, working in economic development with Department of Housing and Community Development, kind of influence a little bit of what I see as the potential for the school system, which is to create an environment where students can thrive and the community benefits from that. And that takes everybody. As a parent, the parents have a role. The teachers have a role. The administration has a role. And to try to bring everybody together, because we all want the same thing. We want our students to succeed at their highest potential. We want them to be employable, and we want them to go on and do great things. Now, each of us have a little different vision of what that means, but I think it's bringing those factors together. It's providing the resources and having served and dealt with budgets and dealt with tough budgets, I think is a crucial skill because, as I mentioned, right now and probably for the foreseeable future, the city is just not in a position. I hope that they will fund education more. I think they want to, but I also understand the position they're in. So luckily, as Mr. Goodpasture mentioned, our facilities are in pretty good shape, but there's still some longer term things we need to look at. So hopefully we can work together and create opportunities for our youth that will benefit our community, and I hope that you will give me the opportunity to serve on the school board and do just that.
Thank you. So thank you to all three of you. We wish each of you luck in this coming election. Let's give them a hand. And again, we do know that it is a sacrifice you make to step up and run, so thank you for that. I want to remind you again, early voting started September 20th, and it ends on November 2nd here in the Bristol Office of Elections and the voter registration. And remember to cast your vote either early or on Election Day on Tuesday, November 5th, because every single vote counts. On behalf of the Bristol Chamber of Commerce, thank you for being here and have a great rest of the evening. Thank you all.